Hello again, Steve here. I wanted to talk today about a book that I've got as an audiobook that I'm listening to on podcast for a little bit on and off recently. You probably heard of it before. It's called Acres of Diamonds and it's by Russel Conwell. Now, I'm not new to this book. I have never read it before or gone through it before, though I was familiar with some of its concepts, and certainly I was familiar about it, upwards of 30 years ago when I had friends who were in Amway. And to this day, I don't know a group of people who've got better books than Amway, the Amway people. They had some real gems. As a Man Thinketh comes to mind too by, I forget who it was. It's James Allen. That's another one, great one. But one of the things I liked about this Russel Conwell guy is I believe he's a preacher. He was a preacher from way back in the day, American preacher, and one of these what I would call prosperity theology types. I really like these guys because they're unapologetic in not only is it okay to get rich, but it's like your duty. It's like your godly duty to get rich, and a lot of value there because they're bringing it back to the personal responsibility to create value, right? And at the same time, they say nobody should get rich who's basically a crook, So the idea is to create value, and as a result of creating value, then the riches comes. This jived a little bit with a book that I'm in the process of reformulating, not to change it so much, but to clean up some of the writing and some of the completely outrageousness in it. It was a book that I wrote a long time ago, and it was basically a manuscript, but it was called, you probably see it here. Yeah, One Continuous Orgasm, that's correct. That is correct, and apparently that is fake news, by the way. But at the time, I was in my early 20s, and of course, my motivations were money and orgasms, of course, at the time, very much so therefore, I figured I'd cover both bases, right? But when I read this thing now, it's actually quite funny, because I was so full of assertion, so full of myself, I figured I had everything figured out in my early 20s. And so the book is called, in case you're not listening to this not watching this, it's called How to Have All the Money You'll Ever Need, while experiencing life as one continuous orgasm. That's right, folks. And it was my attempt at the time to set the record straight on what it is to create wealth. And I make the point, along the lines of what Conwell is making, there's a lot of parallels there, that the wealth is not the currency or even the gold or whatever. It's the value that we bring to the marketplace, the value that we bring to the marketplace. And so in this book, I actually had a diagram. At the time, I was working at the time as a marine engineer, actually, or around that time, on ships. And so when I explain things, it would often be in terms of machinery and machinery systems on board ships. So this here, it's an example in one of the chapters I have, which is called, I forget what this chapter was called. It was called, what you are actually the air compressor is what part of it is called, but the chapter is called Money, Money, Money. I Love It, Do You? Sex and Money Are the Major Kicks. Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits was the quote I had below there. Once again, money and sex was all about what I was up to. So this here diagram is a diagram of an air compressor and a high pressure air system. And I make the case that in a lot of socialist thinking, I was pretty young then at the time, but some of these things I believe very strongly are spot on. But what I was looking at was how the socialist way of thinking of things, the entitlement way of looking at things, or the scarcity mindset, if you will, it focuses on the air tank. So if you have an air hose and you want to blow something off, and you open it up and it blows air out, and you ask the person who's using that air hose, where's the air coming from? They'll say, well, it's coming from the tank. It is, yes, but the tank is just a reservoir of stored energy. So where is the energy coming from? right? In terms of the system, actually. In terms of this system. I'm not talking about the gods and all that sort of stuff. I'm just talking about this particular system. Where is the energy coming from? Well, the energy is coming from the compressor, right? But even more so, it's coming out of the motor of the compressor. So if this breaks down, there is air here, but it's only going to last a while and it'll drain. And furthermore, if this relief valve was to just blow off for some reason and you lose all the air, as soon as you fix this, the system will equalize. But if this breaks down and we hook up for a momentary time another air tank to fill up this air, that would be like a bailout, right? It would inject a bunch of air, but in time it'll just bleed off as well. But we have no source to pump the energy in. And this is what I was talking about in here, and what Russel Conwell is sort of talking about as well, that we have to deliver value. We have to deliver the energy to the equation, to the deal, and then we can get results. So long as, so the air compressor is producing the money. It's producing the value. The reservoir is just the stored up energy. It's like when we work for a whole day, say you go to work and you are a computer programmer. Well, because you can't trade your day's work of computer programming with the grocery stores for your groceries, you store up that energy in a form of currency, just like the air compressor stores up its energy in the form of compressed air. Then you can take some of that compression and then buy the groceries, right? And but that's important to see, because when we see that where that's the value, what we create. Any other, if we just get an infusion of energy, say from a welfare system, then first of all, we don't have the control over that, because that's going to dry up at some point. But also it's coming from somewhere. There's got to be a generator, right? And in a welfare system, in a socialist system, it's always being stolen from somebody else, because it's not being created, right? Because welfare system, or rather a government-run welfare system, the money is coming from taxation, which is theft, right? Or if anybody else does that, it's called theft or extortion or something like that. Or it's coming from the creation of money out of thin air through fiat currency, which is a form of theft as well, because it devaluates everybody else's dollar. If there's $100 in a given little community and somebody dumps another $100 in there, then those original $100 are only worth half of what they were in that circulation. And this is why currencies keep devaluating. People, socialist mindedness through all the schools and everything, tell us that the prices keep going up. No, the prices don't go up. The value, it's that the value, or the value of the individual dollars keeps going down, 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 down. If you compare it to something else, like gold, which can't get created by psychopaths in central banks, people actually have to mine it, the prices stay very stable. You know, a finely tailored suit 200 years ago cost an ounce of gold. Today it costs an ounce of gold. In gold value, the price of a finely tailored suit has not inflated whatsoever. There's almost no change. But fiat currency, it's gone down. So there's taxation, theft. Fiat currency, manipulation, theft. And the third one is borrowing of money, which is also theft from the unborn even. That's how diabolical it is. But all of it's theft. So as soon as we accept, and lots of times we don't have much choice, because if you want to go somewhere, you got to go on the roads maybe, and there's no other option. You got to go on the road. So that's about taking care of ourselves, right? But to voluntarily take this stuff when we don't need it, it is theft, in the same way that if this breaks down and instead of fixing it or getting it working again, we just, find another one and siphon a hose off and stick it in here, right? It's cheating. And it's not going to hold up very long, because sooner or later the compressor that's running that other machine, that other tank, is going to get burned out. In the same way that you keep on taking and taking and taking and taking from the producers, they get burned out, and finally there's pushback, and they won't give anymore. And this is what's happening now. Never going to hear any of this from the mainstream media, but this is what's happening now in the whole strange world that so many people don't understand, aka Donald Trump getting elected, and the movement towards men, primarily white men, reasserting their sovereignty, because they're starting to realize that, you know what, it's not really worth having a whole bunch of people. It's okay if people yell at them and call them racists and call them this and call them that and everything. They've been ripped off for too long, so they're just pushing back a little bit, and they're going to some of them. There's a freedom movement is what's taking place, and some of them have gone full anarchy. Some of them have gone libertarian, support guys like Ron Paul and so on. Other ones support people in like France, Marine Le Pen and what have you, Nigel Farage, you know, the Brexit and so on. That's Trump. All that is part of a freedom movement primarily run by men, and because the men in society, in terms of the economy, are principally the compressors, right? They're the ones. If you look around, go into your city there, and just notice who built what. You know, who built what? The roads, the buildings, the infrastructure, the electricity, the plumbing, the shit pipes underneath the streets and everything. It's all built by men, primarily, right? 99% of that time. And this is what's happening, but I didn't want to get off on that so much. But I think it's a great book, Acres of Diamonds. And that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is that there's acres of diamonds everywhere. There's always opportunity. Always opportunity. But the point is to make sure that we understand that we are the compressors. We are the ones that are compressing that value, what it is that we have. And we really don't have a lot of competition because we're unique. Whatever we have to deliver to the marketplace is unique, and we can get fired up about it and do a good job of it. And we can then compress up our value in terms of currency and use that for good in the world as well. So I just wanted to give a little shout out for the book, Acres of Diamonds. I'm really enjoying it so far, not through it yet. And I wanted to share a little bit about my past thoughts on source of energy and how it can get compressed into a value that can be used later in the form of, say, currency. All right. Steve here again, great chatting. Talk again soon. Bye for now.